Okay, we are live on Facebook. Hello, everybody. We got Alan here with us. We are live on Facebook, and we're also in a Zoom call.
Wonderful.
So before Alan and I really kick off and get too deep into this, I want to make sure just a thumbs up from some of the people on Zoom that you're able to hear us. Yes, we're getting thumbs up. So you and Alan, I think we are good to go to proceed. Appreciate everybody being here.
Yeah. Thank you, Mark. I appreciate you being here and your patience in allowing for this to happen through your Sing to the Mountain studio. Well, we just had our first technical difficulty. We're beginning about 7 minutes late. So if you've been patiently waiting on Facebook, also thank you. And thanks to everybody who's on Zoom with us. We have about 30 mindfulness teachers on Zoom, our Zoom community, who are watching the live stream from there. And hopefully, if you're interested, if you're on Facebook and you're a mindfulness teacher, the invitation is open to join our Zoom community for those more in-depth sessions. So this is it. I could not be more thrilled to be beginning what has been several months long process of getting to be able to technologically achieve this. And we're going to take a look at what, unpack the this of this. And the first piece is I don't really know what this is. We have an intention. The main intention is to provide a voice for mindfulness teachers who might not otherwise have one. And also a voice for teachers who do have a large presence in the community, and bring all that together in a way that somehow inspires and grows the community in a time when it feels like we need something in terms of togetherness, and that's caused by a number of factors out there, which I'll touch on in a little bit. So, as we spontaneously live stream to Facebook and Zoom, let's all begin in a way that I begin all sessions, all teaching sessions, and just about everything that I'm engaged in the mindfulness community with an arriving meditation so that we can fully settle in and bring a presence beyond all the technical issues that we've experienced for me and Mark, and all that it took for you to arrive here. So I'll invite you to close your eyes if that's comfortable. If not, softening the gaze and lowering it slightly. And beginning to fully arrive by letting go of all that it took to get here. All the busyness of whatever time of day you might be in. Honoring this time that you've set aside to be in community, both with recognition of what's here for you now and being with others that are watching throughout these different mediums that we have. Noticing the breath and allowing for the next in-breath to be drawn in to whatever fullness is available. Centering the attention to wherever the breath is most prominent in the body, where it's moving in through the nostrils or the mouth, or in the expansion of the chest or the abdomen. And on an out breath, fully releasing, allowing for all that's not required, all that's not needed by this body to flow out. And knowing that if in some way the breath is too challenging for you right now, then you can bring attention to any anchor that you choose, whether it be the feet on the floor or the sensations of sitting, lying down, and allowing the body to ground and settle into this moment. Expanding the awareness throughout the entirety of the body. This body breathing fully, settling fully, and being with whatever thoughts and emotions might be present. And seeing to whatever degree again is compassionately comfortable without too much of a challenge, to find a focus point to anchor the attention on the breath or another area of the body. And when you're ready now, if the eyes have been closed, gently opening them. Congratulating yourself for taking this brief time out of clock time to settle into dropping into our time together. It's a joy to be with you, Mark. It's a joy to be with everybody whose presence is watching. I want to give you an opportunity to say hello.
Yeah, thank you. It's yeah, I also find joy in this, and I one is I'm finding as I'm being mindful in this moment, my attention's being pulled in multiple directions, onto Facebook, onto Zoom, onto your voice, etc. And it's a new way of being for me over here. We have a couple of thumbs up and a couple of hearts showing up on the Facebook feed. It
Mm,
is going. So whatever this is going to turn into, it's I'm starting to sense some excitement over on my side rather than a solid stability. There's some excitement and giddiness over here. So, and the amount of support that the community was giving on Zoom while you and I were trying to figure all this stuff out was is amazing. So, yeah, truly appreciative and lots of gratitude around that.
yeah, thank you. Yeah. Well, you asked me a while back where this all began for me. And it's an interesting question. Again, I don't know. I know that in my teacher trainings that I've done, I very often introduce myself as an old hippie. And that somehow this began walking barefoot in the streets of Harvard Square when John Kabat-Zinn was guiding yoga at a church, I believe. And I'm going to mention teachers' full names in case anybody's watching us who's not part of the community at some point. And also invite teachers whose full names I mentioned to, if they ever find I have said something that is not accurate, please let me know. I feel a little bit of audacity referring to other teachers. But that's my memory, that John Kabat-Zinn was in a church, and I definitely know I was walking barefoot through Harvard Square. Did it begin there, or did it begin shortly thereafter, reading Be Here Now when it came out, the book by Ram Dass that so many of us as mindfulness teachers are familiar with? Or looking back a little bit, if you'll allow me, did it begin when I was about 10 years old at summer camp when a couple of brothers who were in my cabin, cabin mates at the time, were arguing, and I felt compelled to move in to bring some kind of harmony and peace. Was there something there around the common humanity of getting along? And if that's true, where did that begin in my family at 10 years old? Where did I get that from? And thinking about that, I credit my mother's mother's mother, who we refer to affectionately as the Bubby. So she was born probably around a couple of hundred years ago. And that's as far back as I can go, and not to have the insight that, let's say, the Buddha had under the Bodhi tree of looking back and seeing everything, or looking forward and seeing everything. There's something here that's within me that's compelling me to be here in this way. That started somewhere in that time continuum, in that spectrum. And I don't know what it is, and I don't know where it began. But I do feel that there's a sense that it's needed. And you also asked me if I'd be doing this if it wasn't for the pandemic in some way. And I immediately responded, um, yeah, I probably am here because of the pandemic in some way. And when I think of that, I think back to John again, when he held his mitigation retreat every day online, showing up to help guide us through that time, talking about we need all hands on deck. So this is my way of showing up on deck. And I also want to reference something that Saki Santarelli once said that rings true to me and always has as a mindfulness teacher. And my roots are in MBSR. That's where I began this work. It's where I continue. And Saki in a training once said, the issue is not being too bold. In other words, it's not within minimizing yourself in a classroom setting, which is what he was speaking towards, but this is of course true for life. He said the issue is not being bold enough. So this is bold. I'm feeling a little bit like that audacity I mentioned earlier. Yet, like so much of the work that we're involved in, there's this sense of You cannot not show up for it. Excuse the double negative. So because we can, here we are. Doesn't answer what this is. But that's a little bit of my roots as to where it begins, and a little bit of how I feel about it right now, a bit audacious, and I want to be transparent about that. Um, and we'll see as the weeks go on and we have guests who appear how that continues. But that's what's here for me right now. So with that, Mark, I'll toss it back to you.
Yeah, a much deeper description of how we got to this moment from when you and I have chatted on other times. But you know, the your naming of the ancestors, your ancestors, going back hundreds of years, and the, as I'm hearing you say it, it totally resonates with even my idea of sing to the mountain. That the mountain sits while all this is going off for either of us or any of us. That our ancestors were being born and living and existing and moving on while the mountain sat, and the mountain continues to sit, and etc. So the metaphor of all that isn't landing deaf on my ears, and then the the depth that you're describing is just, for me, it's beautiful to hear that kind of a telling of what do you do with it when it's here now. And because we can, reminds me of there's a gentleman that I follow sometimes. He's not a meditator, not around mindfulness, but he talks about if you have the means and the ability, is there a duty to do something? And I'm wondering if that's what you and I have landed on here. Is we do have the means and we might have the ability to today's kind of showing that, and something's emerging, something's growing from this effort, at least in this moment. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. We're sitting on the shoulders of many. And, I mentioned John and Saki, there's Florence and Melissa, there's all our teachers. And I could go on naming them. There's so many. And for me, I just got lucky in my teacher development intensive at the UMass Center for Mindfulness, meeting Steve Hickman, who was starting the Center for Mindfulness at UCSD in 2002. And then about 9 or so years later, it had grown, and Steve invited me to join him. And I did for 6 years. And in that capacity there as managing director, the field was opened up to me in a way that could never have happened otherwise. And because of that, I've had the extreme blessing of meeting a lot of teachers, a lot of developers of programs. And part of that unique position right now is that not being affiliated with any center, whether it's UCSD or UMass, Brown, any of the centers in Canada, or anywhere else around the world, we are independent to bring on guests beyond any bureaucracy in the service of what I look at as parallel processes that take place. And if you will, there's the beginning parallel process of a participant in a mindfulness program. That participant comes in as a participant thinking they're joining a program, and they leave, and often we know as teachers, we've heard, this has changed my life. And it's been anything but a simple 8-week program, whether it's MBSR or MSC or MBCT or any of the other ones. Isn't that interesting? And we go in, we approach this as teachers like we're going to teach an 8-week program. And we come out after a period of time It may be our first program, but usually it's a little bit longer, realizing this has changed our lives as teachers, the participants, the practices, of course, have changed our lives. Then you become a bit of a senior teacher and you hold teacher trainings or you get involved in mentorship. And the same thing happens again, the parallel process. Well, we're going to mentor this new teacher. And I can't count the amount of times I have said to mentees, I should be paying you for this. The wisdom that I hear, the insights that I hear, and how that has shaped me and changed my life. And now there's this, whatever this is. And it will change our lives, you and I, Mark, and it will change maybe others in our community. I don't know. The potential's there because of the parallel process that I've seen. And my hope is it happens. My hope is it happens for society. And the big hope, the big 40,000 foot view, if you will, the big picture of this is that because of the pandemic, and getting back to would this have happened if there wasn't one? No. And why is it happening? We're living in these bubbles. We're living in these bubbles of technology because we can't associate with each other in the ways of the past. And the bubbles, along with other factors, are creating a tremendous amount of kind of a group psychosis and anxiety that seems to be spreading through society, not just in the US, but particularly in the US. And that's exacerbated by our political situation. So, in some way, the 40,000 foot view is, can this sense of community that there is continued hope of developing in whatever contributing role we can play here within a mindfulness teachers community, contribute in some way to, and I'm not using this word lightly, creating an oasis. Whereas, John also said in his mitigation retreat, there's no reason to lose your mind while the rest of the world's losing their mind. So can we contribute with the guests that we have within the inspiration that might be provided from those guests to grounding in a stability of a community, which also is in a bubble, which also has its own false sense of separation and anxiety producing things, as everything does, as everything gets political. So that's my hope, my intention as to what I think this might be, but I don't know. And I don't know how it'll unfold. I don't know if it'll last beyond today, as I mentioned earlier, to our Zoom group. But let's live into it and find out.
I'm landing on the coincidence of you naming how teaching MBSR, being an MBSR mentor, teaching other MBSR teachers changes you also. That just yesterday I was doing some preparation on a whole other aspect of my world, looking at how working with clients changes the therapist also. And to be able to identify that, name it, I totally relate with, as you were describing it as a teacher. Every time I teach a class, whether it's a university class or a mindfulness class, I walk away different also. And isn't that one of the key things of what mindfulness is about, is being with that things change. And that kind of a discussion with other teachers, for instance, I'm really curious at some point to hear from other teachers if they also notice that as they touch in with their students and the students are touching back in the metaphorical sense, that the change is occurring. Sometimes it's subtle. Sometimes maybe it's a little more apparent. I know it has been for me of, oh, I walk away from one. It's like, wow, yeah, wow. I'm going to remember that one. And other times it's just a little more subtle change. And all of a sudden I realize that, oh, there's a shift that's occurred with me as a, whether it's teaching style or whatever it is, or even my ability to be doing my own mindfulness practices. And then as you're naming this still, the pandemic has helped me settle in more and more with being with what's here now. So much has changed so quickly in the last 2 years around the globe. I just had a friend the other day says, well, at the end of January, we're expecting, I go, yeah, about that. We got to get through today first and then tomorrow before we get to the end of January. Nice to have it out there as a place to look toward, but we don't know. We've been through so much. We've been through riots. We've been through pandemics. We've been through, in the U.S., through insurrections. We've been through financial challenges. We've been through, oh, yeah, we've been through a lot. Lots of friends and acquaintances have passed on also. And it's like, yeah, so nice to know that it's out there on the horizon, and I get the practice coming back into now. And that's been very useful for me. To see. Had it not been for the pandemic, maybe I wouldn't be this now centered, grounded, I guess. I don't know the right word for that. Finding the gratitude and the joys that come out of a difficult time, whether it's a pandemic or anything else, that the full catastrophe is as John Kabat-Zinn's written about. It's like, yeah, yeah, for me, yeah, what is that? It's still coming. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It's always been here.
Yeah.
And there's something about now. There's something about the othering. There's something about the separation. The illusion of separation, that is being cast as the reality. And the reality being that, of course, we're all in this together. So we'll be exploring it over the next few weeks and hopefully longer. We already have a number of guests booked and we haven't really tried. So there seems to be a willingness to be transparent, to be vulnerable, to come on and talk about what brought you here, speaking out there to you, whoever you are out there, what brought you here if you want to appear. Everybody's welcome. If you're a teacher of a mindfulness program, reach out to me through my email, which should be posted below. And we'll book a time to look at what brought you here, to look at what you're teaching now, if you have a program that you'd like to inform us about, and to look at your vision around the future and this illusion of separation and how we're all playing a role as best as we can towards alleviating that suffering. So, Mark, should we try a question or two because we can, and this is as much of a test session as it is kind of setting the stage? Is that
Well, we could
something you
do,
want to give a
yeah,
try?
a couple of different experiments here. So for those of you that are with us here, with Alan and I, there's some people that are viewing on Facebook Live. You can comment through the Facebook comments, and I'll be able to share them with everybody. On Zoom, you can. I think we're going to try this. You might be able to ask a question live. We're not going to. If you want to have your voice can come up, and it might come through. I don't know, but you can certainly put a question in the chat, and I'll be able to share it with Alan, and we can try that.
Okay.
So, yeah, the whole community is now part of the grand experiment. So this might be Martha, as you the co-host, as the guest host over on the Zoom side. If anybody has a question, if you could just let us know. I think I can look at the chat also. So, follow-up question that we're getting through the Zoom is, should or can the community suggest speakers or topics? Would that be helpful?
Absolutely, especially speakers, if you know of somebody who would like to join us. So rather than my reaching out to them, if I don't know them, if you reach out to them and let them know about this, and spreading the word is really going to be paramount to how this builds or doesn't build. So anybody who would like to share it on any of their social media or reach out to people and let them know we're live on Facebook is very welcome.
So, speaking of Facebook, we have a
Oh,
question
that's
from
cool.
Facebook.
Shows up. Cool. Oh, disappeared.
Oh, lost it.
Ah,
Yeah.
okay.
What is the future of mindfulness for applications in a fast-paced life?
It's a great question. I don't know. You know, nobody's really talking about the transcendentalists of the 1800s. They were very mindful, Thoreau, Emerson, people like that. Well, we don't know. We're all going to have to live into it. I imagine, like everything, things change with the times, things morph. But I don't think we're in any danger of having awareness go away, which could be a synonym for mindfulness, and how that then takes shape in terms of programs of society we're all going to have to live into. And I would say the faster the pace, the more job security there is in this field. Okay, I think we're at time, and we've
Okay.
experimented a little bit with some questions. I want to mention a couple of closing pieces, which is one, to if you view this as a recorded video, or I don't believe you can do this now, Mark, correct me if I'm wrong, but to hit the like button, to click on our community on Zoom. The steps for that is to first join the Facebook group and simply respond to the 3 or 4 questions that are asked around your teaching mindfulness and provide an email. And then I can put you on the email list to receive the weekly notifications that we send out for these sessions. And it has the registration link for the Zoom sessions with it. So if you want to join us on Zoom where things really go deep, as we're not being recorded and we intentionally don't record it, and we're able to spend some personal time together in community. We welcome you joining us. Lastly, this is something I'm a little bit shy about and still getting over, but your support through donations is going to personally help me continue this. It's going to personally setting up these sessions with Mark and all of that. Your financial support is greatly appreciated. And there are donation links in the emails and on my website, which will be linked underneath in chat in the text below this video at some point when we post it. So I have to get more comfortable with asking for that, and thank you for that trial opportunity there. See you back on Zoom
Okay.
for our Zoom participants. Thanks, Mark.